His logic here is that he knows that the Ukrainians will continue to kill dozens or hundreds of Russians if they try to storm this. And he also knows he needs every single soldier he can get for this offensive in the east. So this is about cauterising what he sees as a wound to ensure that he can free up multiple battalion tactical groups to fight on this eastern offensive they've just launched.
So you don't believe he'll leave troops in Mariupol now surrounding that factory?
He'll have to leave a security force there, not just to cordon off the factory so they can't escape, but also to provide security in Mariupol. There are still civilians there, and some kind of insurgency could potentially break out. So he'll need to leave some forces there, but the majority of them will probably be redeployed to this eastern offensive.
Yeah. I want to talk about that eastern offensive in just a moment, but let's deal with this testing overnight of a new intercontinental ballistic missile. What sort of warning was this?
Oh, it's clearly signalling from Putin to the West, but it's not a surprise. I mean, Western analysts and intelligence agencies have known for a long time that the Russians are developing new missiles such as this ICBM. So it's no surprise. The timing's interesting, but it's really just more of this strategic sabre rattling that we're seeing from Putin and his high command to try and deter the West from intervening in Ukraine.
Does it mean, though, that the nuclear threat remains on the table as an option for him to use?
Certainly, it's part of Russian doctrine, this escalate to de-escalate kind of approach that the Russians have with their doctrine and the use of tactical or battlefield nuclear weapons. They've never taken it off the table. They've certainly threatened it multiple times. It remains very unlikely. However, if Putin's back is up against the wall and the eastern offensive doesn't go well, it will be interesting to see where things go from there.
And a weapon like this, what kind of damage could it do?
Well, the ICBM is part of their strategic deterrent. It'd be very unlikely they would use that in a Ukraine situation, but they do have tactical, intermediate range and shorter range missiles on which they could put a low yield nuclear weapon, which would be targeted at concentrations of troops or large logistics hubs or even large cities.
All right, let's move to this, as you point out, this concentration of Russian resources in the east. They're fighting on somewhere between a 300-kilometre to 500-kilometre front line. Give us a sense of what that means in terms of a battle.
Well, unlike what we saw in the first couple of months of the war, the Russians aren't attacking all along that front all at once. They're picking several locations where they're focusing their effort around Kharkiv as well as Izium and these kind of places. They've concentrated up to 80 battalion tactical groups, according to the Pentagon, and they continue to flow in more forces as part of this offensive. So they're picking a couple of key locations, and what they'll try and do is to fix the Ukrainian forces in the east, whilst another movement further to the west seeks to envelop the Ukrainians.
Is this man-on-man combat?
It'll be all of that. It'll be tanks against tanks. It'll be tanks against humans. It'll be humans against humans. There'll be a lot of artillery, a lot of large-scale rocket barrages. The Russians really do favour large-scale use of artillery and rockets. So you'll see all that. You'll see these anti-tank teams. The Ukrainians are deployed against Russian armour before. You'll see a lot more Russian aircraft participating. We're already seeing an uptick in the number of Russian aircraft sorties. This will be a larger scale and far more deadly phase of the war than what we've seen already.
And is it going to be far more challenging for the Ukrainians to mount the sort of resistance they've been able to in other parts?
Well, the Ukrainians have been fighting in this area since 2014, so they know the area well. It's traditionally where the Ukrainian army deploys its very best brigades. So it's well placed to defend. It will have war-gamed this scenario over the last 8 years. It will have been able to reinforce its troops there with those redeployed from the north, as well as with a significant amount of Western aid. They're very well replaced to at least repulse this Russian offensive, if not assume the offensive at some time in the future.
That is interesting. Mick, as always, appreciate your insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Beverly.